Hi guys, my name's Rich. Welcome to my channel, Dales&Vales. So in this, which is my second video, I want to talk about my kit, specifically how I try and get lighter weight while sticking to a budget, but as well just kind of give an overview of the current kit I've got and what I'm thinking for in the future. And show you how I pack it into my bag as well, so you can kind of see some of the tips I have, and if it gives you any ideas on how to better pack your kit, or if you've got any ideas for me. You know, I'm always looking to learn. But starting off, the kind of inspiration for this video was when I first started looking into getting into lightweight and ultralight hiking, and started looking to try and find ways to get lighter kit, but without spending an awful lot. You know, I've got 2 kids, you know, fairly young family. I don't have an awful lot of extra income that I can go spending on a tent that's 300 or 400 quid. So I started looking into it, and I came across a YouTube video that was ultralight gear on a budget, and their budget was $650. That's not budget. That is not budget. It might be budget for these people who are, you know, you go hiking you spend pretty much most of your year out in the wilderness, or you're out every weekend. You know, again, got 2 kids. I don't have the time to be going out every weekend, but when I want to go out, I want to go out the way I want, you know, with a lighter pack and be able to enjoy it a bit more. So I found my own way, but most of the kind of budget videos I saw, they were like, oh, get, you know, this tent which is 200 quid, get this sleeping bag which is 150 quid. You know, the talking big money for what I would consider a budget. So I wanted to show my thoughts and my ideas and my perspective on it. So just again, my kind of background for this, I grew up into camping, into hiking, but because kind of my parents weren't really, so I had to kind of pick up from external places. I grew up going through beavers, cubs, scouts, etc. So I picked up an awful lot of gear on the way, and that was my kind of starting point for going lightweight. That I had a lot of gear already, and I wanted to kind of point out to people, if you do have gear, it will do. You know, you don't have to go out and buy an ultralight sleeping bag just because you want to go ultralight. Get into it, and you can slowly swap the gear out. So a lot of the gear I've got on here, well, actually not a lot of the gear I've got on here was original. I think that of my main gear, there's only a couple of items that I haven't actually swapped out, but I'll explain why I haven't swapped them out yet in the video as we go along. So to start off, first and foremost, I do have all my gear laid out on the spare bed behind me, but I need something to put it in first and foremost, and that will be my pack. So I actually have 2 packs at the moment that I can fit all of this gear in. One pack is the current pack I use, and one pack is the pack I want to start using. So we'll start off with the pack that I currently use. Now this is, I think it's about 700 grams. This pack, it's not what you hugely say is lightweight. Now, disclaimer, I have no idea on the size of these packs. I've had them for years. This one is the younger of the 2 packs, which I got in the 2007 World Scout Jamboree. So this is a 13 years old bag. This is the younger of the two as well. But this is actually the slightly larger of the two. I think, if I've measured it correctly, it's about 45 litres. I might be wrong if you look at that and say, oh no, that's, you know, but I think it's about 45 litres. 13 years old, it's still doing strong, it's holding up pretty well and it's still got the original laminated piece of card in there. It's doing pretty well. So this is the current pack I use because it fits all my gear in it and it's quite comfortable to use. But I do want to go down a little bit smaller to this one. This is a slightly older pack, but it's still holding up pretty well. I think this is about 35 litres probably. I can get most of I can get all the kit that I've got laid out on the bed in it, including some food which I've not got laid out on the bed, but the thing I can't fit in there is water, and that is a bit of a problem. I will probably swap into this bag fairly soon when I eventually decide to change my tent, and I'll get onto that in just a sec. So you'll see kind of why. But for me, size is kind of just as important as weight. A lot of people, it's all about weight, you know, shave the ounces, shave the pounds. For me, size is just as important, because if you can get things in a smaller size, you can get them in a smaller bag. If you get them in a smaller bag, you're saving weight on that as well. Because this one's about, I think this one's about 700 grams, this one's about 500. So you're shaving a bit of weight there. But that's again shows you that you don't need to rush out and buy one of these Dyneema ultralight bags. You know, that's a 500 gram bag. It's not heavy, it's still fairly light, and if I can fit all my gear in there, that's a plus. You know, this thing's lasted maybe, I don't know, maybe 20 years this, and it's still holding out strong, and I've not been careful with it. You know, I've had this since I was about 9 or 10. I've not been careful with it, but they're built to last. So, you know, if you've already got gear, you can start off with that. It's a good starting point. Just make a few sensible swaps, and that'll shave your weight hugely. So, firstly, we'll start off with my shelter. That's kind of the bigger item. This one is the pyramid shelter that I did a review of as my first video. Now this is about, I think it was, I said it was just over a kilo in my last video. It's actually 1.5 kilos. I measured it, I weighed it. So this is a pretty decent option to start with for going ultralight. It was only, for me, I found this at 35 quid on eBay. And it's done me pretty well, and certainly for my first purchase, as it was to try and get into this ultralight mindset, it really helped to start that off. But you know, it's probably one of the better purchases you can make is to start off with your shelter. It's probably where you're going to save most weight for your money, and if you're clever with it, you can save an awful lot. So I have a couple other tents which are not lightweight. I have probably the one that's probably best to compare it to is Eurohike Backpacker 2, which is 2.9 kilos. So I spent 35 quid and I've halved the weight of my tent. There are actually two tents that I'm considering changing this to, and that is because they are lighter and smaller. Now both of them are around about 80 quid. So if you are just starting off and you're really not sure, you kind of on the fence whether or not you're going to like it, 35 quid, you can't really go wrong with that. You know, it's a decent tent in itself. 35 quid is not a huge amount to spend, and if you decide you really want to get into it like I did and start spending more and more and more on tents, it's always a decent option to have as a backup, you know. And my kids as well. My kids love playing in my tents. So this one, I've already had to repair it once because we ripped off one of the peg hooks. It's, you know, it's fairly easily repairable, and I'm at 35 quid. I really don't care if they break it. But that being said, I am looking at two tents that are about 80 quid, and I've actually measured, they are the same size and weight as my sleeping pad. So, considering that 80 quid, I can probably halve the weight again, because this is 1.5 kilos, these are about, I think it's about 800, just over 800 for these, 800 grams for these two tents. So I'm pretty much halving the weight and size again for another 80 quid. If you are confident that you're going to like lightweight backpacking and really want to get into it pretty quick, it's probably best just to go for an option that is super lightweight, super small, because for 80 quid you can go from a 2.9 kilo tent to a 900 gram tent, shave a whopping 2 kilos off your pack weight, just for having 80 quid's worth of investment. I've not seen them, I've not tested them. When I do eventually get around to it, whichever one I go for, I will do a review. But they seem pretty decent. That's why I'm looking into them. But 35 quid, it's hard to go wrong. Certainly as a backup option, or as an option that you can set out for your kids to play with. So that's my shelter. I'm going to put this to one side because this is not what goes into my pack first. I'm going to kind of pack the bag as I go. So this doesn't go into my pack first, and I'll explain why in a sec. But what does go into my pack first is my sleep system, which is my sleeping pad. This is inflatable sleeping pad. I think they're now starting to be called ultralight air mattresses, these ones, because they're not the same as a self-inflating mat like a Thermarest. This I decided to buy. It was, I think, 10 quid off eBay was this one. And it's about 800 grams. When you compare the size of it, this is actually the bag I have for a Thermarest. Now this fits in a ProLite Plus regular size Thermarest. So this is a kind of average size self-inflating Thermarest, and the size of them compared is quite, you know, the size of them is quite a big difference, because obviously this doesn't have the foam insulation in it, and that's probably where the downside is. I could not find an R value on this, so I'm really not sure how well it will hold up in the cold. Currently, I'm a fair weather camper at the moment. I'm not looking to go out in windy, howly weather, and certainly not when it's winter, when it's snow on the ground and things like that. I'd rather be at home with the kids and a hot chocolate and a movie. But you can get ones similar to this. I've seen ones for about 30 quid, which have. They're starting to get about 30 quid. You can get the ones with the foam, the foil, kind of covering the heat reflective coatings. They're about, I think you get for about 30 quid, and they're claiming an R value of 5, which is pretty decent. So if you can get one that's the same kind of size, that's pretty good. I wanted to go for this just because I liked the size of it, and I wanted the extra height. I'm a side sleeper, so it's a bit more comfortable for me. Now I actually managed to get this one for free. It should have cost. It did cost me 10 quid originally, but I actually had it refunded to me because they hadn't finished. They had missed part of the seam when they were sealing it, so it didn't hold air. And I originally arrived, tested it out. It was pretty much flat within an hour, so I was pretty pissed off. Even, contacted the seller and they said, "Oh, we're really sorry about that. We'll just give you a refund." And then I was like, "Okay, fair enough. Refund. I've not lost anything. A bit disappointed. Okay, fine." And then I decided, I wonder where this hole actually is, because at the time I just knew there was a leak. So I pulled the bath, got it looking, and I was like, oh, there's just a bit of the seam that's not sealed. Essentially, these ones, like a thermarest, they seal them round the edge with heat. It's like a giant sandwich press. They just put them in this giant sandwich press and heat seal it. It's kind of like a laminator. So I'm looking at see this little bit that hasn't been sealed, and I think, right, okay, so if I just get something hot, and I just managed to get my iron and just held it on for a couple of seconds, pulled it off, works absolutely fine now. It's fantastic. They're not. This one's pretty cheap. It probably doesn't hold air as well as like a thermarest would, and when you get, you probably want to top it up every day. If you're camping, if you are camping in one spot for a couple of days, you'd probably want to top it up every night before you go to bed. But it will see you quite happily through the night. It's not going to lose it that fast. This one, and for free for me, I'm pretty pleased with it. The sleeping bag I've got and I'm currently using is Gellert Extreme Light 800. This is one that I've had for many years. I've not swapped this out yet. The reason I've not swapped this out yet, this is only a 1 to 2 season bag, by the way. I've not swapped this out yet because I don't really see me wanting to go for anything lighter. More that I could go for something warmer for the same weight and size. I could go for a warmer bag that's got down insulation rather than synthetic, and that'll be similar weight, similar size, but we'll probably do kind of 2 to 3 season, be a bit warmer. If I decide to go for that, I've seen them for around about 60 to 70 pounds. So again, that's more on the expensive side from what I'm talking about so far, which is why I haven't gone for that yet, but that's because it's down insulation. You can pick a lightweight sleeping bag up, one of these, for probably about 30 quid, a decent make one, with synthetic insulation. So this is what goes into my pack first, because this I'm not going to need until I'm at camp. I've got my tent up, and in that case I can then start unpacking the whole bag and I can get down all the way to the bottom. So that is what goes in first, all the way to the bottom, and that lies horizontally across the bottom of the pack. And then the sleeping pad, again horizontally, just on top of that. The next thing that I put in there is my cook system, again because I don't need that until I'm at camp and have my tent up. The tent I put in quite late, so I can grab that out as the first thing, because then for me, you get to camp, first thing you need is your tent. You want to get, certainly if it's raining, which in the UK it does a lot, so you get to camp, pull your tent out, get your tent up, then you can start doing everything else in your dry tent. So the next thing is the cook system, which is a couple of bits. So at the moment I am using this little lightweight stove. This is a copy, well, not exactly a copy, but kind of inspired by the little BRS titanium stoves. They, I think, claim 25 grams. This one, the little packet on the box that it came with a load of Chinese writing, had a little star that said 45 grams. I believe it. I've actually got scales. I've never actually tested this, but I'm interested to see. 47 grams. They lied. 2 grams over. Refund. This one, I think you can get the BRS stoves for about 15 to 20 quid. This one I think cost me a £5. It's pretty decent, it's fairly lightweight, it's fairly uncomplicated. gas on, gas off. Comes with this little bag, and it's got reasonable power to it. It boils water fairly quickly. I am toying with the idea of a different kind of stove, that if I can figure it out properly, might be even not lightweight on the stove itself. The stove itself will probably be similar weight, but on the fuel, you will save rather a lot of weight. So if I figure that out, it seems to be working fairly well, but if I figure that out, I will share a video on how to do that. It'll be kind of a DIY make your own gear kind of thing. Obviously these little stoves use these isobutane canisters. For me, it always seemed fairly heavy, for especially if you're only going for like a 1 night or a 2 night hike. Taking this full thing seems a bit heavy, but at the time I didn't have any kind of other option. It worked fairly well. Obviously there are other options out there, there's like the hexane fuel tablets, and there's the obviously transiers with methylated spirits, the little spirit burners. This one seemed like the kind of easiest option to start with. So to say this cost me about a £5, and these you pick up in your camping shop, you'll be spending on fuel anyway with whatever system you get. That's another benefit of the system I'm trying to come up with, that it should be very, very cheap fuel, and the stove will, because it's a DIY stove, cost you nothing. So again, if it comes off, if it pays off, I will share the video. And then I've got my little cook pots. This is a set. You'll see these all over Amazon, eBay, Wish, AliExpress, all over the place. I think I got this set for about a tenner. They're anodized aluminium with a non-stick coating. Not too heavy. They are 230 grams for the two of them just there. It's not ridiculously heavy. You can get lighter if you can go like titanium cups and things like that, but they're, you know, starting off at like 25-30 quid from what I've seen. So again, for me coming into it, these were the better option for cost versus how much weight you actually save. You know, comparing this set to a full transier, certainly size wise and weight wise, it's sort of very much worth it, because that's what I was using at the time. I had a full transier setup, and it's going from that to this little set was an awful lot nicer. So that was kind of it's for me, it's always been about smart investment of how much weight and size you're saving on how much you're spending. You don't need to spend hundreds of pounds to get that rough size and weight. You know, there are a lot of people who feel that the ultralight backpacking ethos is shave every single gram you can and try and shave as much as you possibly can. So much so that I've seen someone who is a bike packer who, instead of using a sleeping pad, uses a roll of bubble wrap, which while you're saving an awful lot of weight and saving money, bubble wrap's fairly cheap, it seems a bit ridiculous to decide to sleep on bubble wrap. I don't want to put myself through that. I go camping because I enjoy it. I want it to be enjoyable and comfy. You know, sue me. So I put this all together. Most people do kind of the same. You put your fuel canister and your stove inside this. I wrap my fuel canister inside a J-cloth. That way it protects the non-stick coating from the metal of the can. And it also gives you something to clean up with. And then stove on top. And this all goes in a little bag it came with. Always catches on the handles. There we go. And then that just pops into the bag quite simply down next to the sleeping pad. So I've got my sleeping pad, my full sleep system and my cook system in there, and we're only about, I think we're about halfway up the bag. So on top of those, that is where I would then put my tent. That goes in vertically instead of horizontally. So that way it's sat right there, and when I get to camp I can grab that, pull it out. There's nothing on top of it. I'm not wanting to move loads of stuff out of the way of it. You know, it sits quite happily there. I can shut it down a bit. Alongside that, on the other side, I would have this bag which has got my food in it. I don't know if it was just coincidence that I had this little dry bag anyway. There's a spider crawling up my wall there. My wife hates them. So I had this little dry bag anyway from kayaking, just to keep like valuables in, like phone and keys and things like that. And I decided, well, since I've got it, I may as well use it to put my food in. That way, if it does chuck it down completely and everything's ruined, I do have some dry food. That, or if I'm taking anything that has kind of a wet element to it, it's not gonna leak and get all over everything else in my bag. That's the main thing, the main idea of it, really, that I'm not gonna, like when you take your toiletries bag and your shaving foam leaks, or your shower gel leaks and it leaks all over your clothes, and this is the same idea. You put your food in there. If there's anything wet, it's not going to leak all over your tent, your sleeping bag, and all your other stuff. That goes alongside the tent, because if you do have snacks in there for your trip, while you're hiking during the day, you can grab them out the top, again, without having to move and unload stuff from there. Mostly that is what goes in the pack itself. I will have like spare clothes, like a thermal layer, some extra socks, things like that. I'll stuff them in around the stuff, the items I've already got in there. I won't put like a actual bag full of those in there. I'll just stuff them around. You can fairly easily stuff a pair of socks between a food bag and a tent. It fills that extra space. The other things I would have in the actual tent, I've got this, which is my little down jacket. Again, I got this for about 10 quid, and this was from Wish. It's this little fairly thin down jacket. You can see it's not very thick. It's not thick at all, this, but there is down in there, and when you pair it with a thermal t-shirt, when you're only if you are going camping properly in winter, or even cold autumn or cold spring, take a proper thermal jacket. Take a proper down jacket. I've got one from Mountain Warehouse downstairs, which cost me a lot more than this, and it's a lot thicker, and it's it's lab tested down to minus 40 degrees C. I trust that. I wouldn't trust this to keep me warm in those conditions, but if I'm going camping in the summer and I've got a thermal layer and a few other items, I'm gonna kind of trust this to give me a bit of extra warmth, but you know, I'm going camping in the summer. I'm pretty much going to be in t-shirt during the day. When I get back to the camp, I'm going to have my sleeping bag. It's all just kind of adding to it. So this is just kind of an optional layer. If you've got a lightweight fleece or something like that, you can probably replace it with that. You don't have to go for a down jacket if you have something that does already. But again, for a Ted and for the size of it, it packs down really small. So that's pretty nice. So that goes in there as well, next to the food bag. And then on top of those, on top of the food bag and on top of that down jacket is where I put my water. This is another kind of top tip on where you can save weight and save money. Instead of buying a water bottle, use an empty squash bowl. 2 litres, 1.5 litres, you can get that for free, and it's lighter than any sports bottle you will find in the shops. And then the last item that goes in the main pack is trowel. This one is a plastic trowel that I bought from a local hardware store, Yorkshire Trading, for anyone who is from Yorkshire, and it was £1.99. So I don't think for £1.99 this is only, if I can get it to sit on the scales properly, I've got stupid scales. So this is 75 grams for £1.99. You can, I've seen the places where they've got these aluminium hiking trowels, and they're like 15, 20 quid, and yeah, they might be, I wonder how much they are, how many grams. Hiking trowel. So these little, you've probably seen these aluminium hiking trowels when I can actually find them. God, I thought going on AliExpress would be a done deal. Anyway, they're only like, I think they're like 20, 30 grams, but they're like 20 quid. This is £1.99 and this is 75 grams. I don't think an extra like 15 quid is worth 50 grams. When you say that you, like I said, you can spend 80 quid to shave 2 kilograms, is 15 quid worth 50 grams? It seems ridiculous to me to think I'm going to spend that much when you're only using it for literally one thing. And certainly in the UK, you're probably never too far from a toilet anyway, so it's but I do keep one on me just in case. It's kind of the hiking ethos, leave no trace. Have one. It's worth buying one. You can get one for £2 from your local shop. It's just a lightweight plastic trowel. You can buy, even if you buy like a kid's gardening set, it's lighter weight than a full trowel, and it's worth having on you just in case. This goes in my pack straight down the side, pretty much all the way to the bottom. So just show you, all the way down to the bottom and kind of around my sleeping bag. So it's actually right down here, right at the bottom, but you can reach all the way down the side of the tent, down the side of everything else, and pull it out without having to unpack all these extra bits. And then that is what goes in the main pack. So do that up. The other thing I forgot to mention, if you are worried about weather, if you want something that's going to keep your stuff a bit drier, quite simply, bin bag. Put a bin bag right to the bottom of your pack, open it out, put all your stuff into the bin bag, done. You don't need to buy lots of dry bags, you don't need to buy huge things. I generally take a waterproof backpack cover with me anyway, just because I had a waterproof backpack cover, not because I think they're better. For me, I think it probably, if you can keep the backpack dry on the outside, I'd be less worried and feel a bit more comfortable than just having all my stuff in a wet backpack in a bin bag. But you can always do both. You know, I quite, if I am worried about the weather, I will put a bin bag in there, fill everything in it, and then have the waterproof backpack cover as well, just as an extra. That is the main pocket. The bag, and as you can see, they all fit quite nicely into there. Room to spare at the moment because I've not put water or food in. And then everything else goes in the side pockets. I've got a number of side pockets on this, and I use them so I can kind of organise myself on the fly, really. So I do have a pocket just on the inside of the top, which is there. Most of the time I put my hygiene stuff and my kitty in there. So just a couple of items like bar soap, toothpaste, toothbrush. I've seen people who are going on these who are going as far as cutting the handles off their toothbrushes to save extra grams. Yeah, you can do it. It costs you nothing to do, but you know, if you want to, go for it. That's up to you. I've not bothered. It's, you know, this toothbrush weighs 15 grams. It's not heavy for me, you know, but then again, it costs you nothing to do. So if you want to, cut the handles off your toothbrushes. Also in there I would have first aid kit and things like toilet paper, deodorant if you want, you know, but that's where I keep hygiene stuff. That way I know where it is, keeps me organised, and I can just grab that pretty quickly. In the top pocket of the top is where I'll put a couple of warmth things. So I've got a little woolly hat and a buff. I'd also put gloves in there if I'm taking gloves, and if I'm taking like a sun hat that can fold up and put in there, I'll probably put that in there as well. So those kind of warmth accessories, or maybe sun accessories, if depending on the weather. But again, just so I know where they are and I can grab them pretty quickly. I'm not having to faff about trying to find them. Similar idea is my rain jacket. So this is my one, which is by Mackinac. I think this was, can't remember how much this one was, maybe like 15 quid. It's a bit heavier than most of like your very basic rain layers, because this one's actually got a thermal layer built into it, so it adds a bit of warmth as well. So it's a little bit heavier, a little bit thicker, but I actually prefer it because for me it gives that a bit more flexibility, that you know, you can wear a t-shirt, you put a thermal t-shirt on, you can put this that's got a bit of warmth in it, you can put your down jacket that's got a bit of warmth, you know, you can kind of build them up and add them together, and you're kind of giving yourself a bit of warmth when you're wearing this anyway. Because let's face it, most of the time if it's raining it's not warm. If you're not going to be baking in the rain thinking, oh, I'm really hot, I need to take my coat off, I want to be wearing just a t-shirt for this. This just goes straight into this side pocket here. It did come with a stuff sack. It is, you know, Mac in a sack. It comes with a little stuff sack itself. It doesn't fold into its own pocket like a lot of them, but instead comes with a little bag. I found it easier just to stuff it straight into a pocket, because that way if it does rain, you're not kind of, I've got it in the pocket anyway, why would I then have it in a bag? If it starts raining I can just grab it straight out of there. But I do have the little bag that if I do need anything like a stuff sack for anything, I've got this little bag, this is the little stuff sack it came with, that I can use that if I need to. You know, I'm not going to get rid of that. It'll come in handy for some kind of thing, even like a peg bag or something like that, if you need, or if you're not got enough pockets for like a hygiene bag, instead of buying a little dirty bag, you can just use that. Saves money, you've already got it. And it's actually got, it's slightly waterproof coated on the inside of it, because then pretty cleverly, if you got a wet coat and you put it away, you're not going to get all your other stuff wet because it's in this little waterproof bag. But that might come in handy again if you've got like a little ditty bag and you've got like some liquid soap in there or something. It gives you a bit of protection. It's not that you're not going to get it straight on your stuff. It's not the best because it's only a drawstring. It's not like a dry bag, but it's a bit better than nothing. Again, if you are looking for like stuff sacks and things like that, most of your stuff will come with it. So if you've already got some gear and you need a stuff sack, I've got a thermarest stuff sack that I can put stuff in if I need a stuff sack, because the thermarests I store in the top of that wardrobe, just laid out. I might do a video on how to store gear, because I think a fair amount of people probably have it like rolled up in the stuff sack in the attic, and they might not realise. So I might do a video on how to store gear. That might help some people. But then I've got my last pocket, which is this one over here, and in there I've got my little grab items. So I always take a knife with me. This is my lighter of my 2 knives. It's not super lightweight. I bought it probably more for the aesthetics of this one, and then I got this one, which is a bit more practical, which I bought for if ever needed for kayaking. If ever needed in a rescue situation, you can cut a rope fairly swiftly with that one. This one, you'd be, it's not got a serrated edge or anything, so it's not as good for rescue situations, but for camping it's pretty decent. Because it's the smaller one, it's my light one, so that's one I generally take. I take a compass just in case I get lost. I take a lighter for setting my stove off. A little head torch. This one, I've got 2 white lights, 1 red light. If, like me, you are into wild camping in the UK, definitely get one with a red light. It's a lot less visible, so if you're in your tent at night and wanting to read or do something, you put your red light on, you're a lot less visible to anyone else. But just a little lightweight one, little strap, that goes in there as well. I would also put my waterproof backpack cover in there. This is quite, they're quite decent sized pockets, these side ones, for this bag, and I would put a waterproof backpack cover in there as well as anything else I decide that I might want to take that will fit in there. And then the last thing I have is my cutlery set. Now, it seems to be the trend that most people are going for these titanium long-handled spoons, and while I agree they're very lightweight and probably quite techy, firstly, for me, I've got this little non-stick cook pot, and I have a bad habit of I like to eat out of my cook pot rather than liking to eat out of the bag of your hiking meals. I never liked it didn't feel nice to me eating out of the bag, and again, I have the bad habit of wanting to camp because I enjoy the experience, and the experience for me is what is more important than shaving the weight. So I eat out of my cook pot, so I can't use a titanium spoon for it because I'd scrape all of the coating away. So that left me with the options of plastic or wood, which is what I went for. So I have this little set. It's kind of like a lunchtime set. It comes with a fork as well, but I don't see the point of the fork, so I always leave that at home. I take these. It's kind of like just a little wooden set with this kind of string wrapped handles. It's got a spoon, 2 chopsticks. They're quite nice. I really quite like eating with these. It feels quite nice when you get to the camp at the end of the day, and you set all your stuff up and you get your meal ready, and then you sit down and you kind of feel kind of sat there enjoying nature, eating with this little kind of wooden spoon. It's quite a nice experience. It's quite spiritual in some ways. So that's why I went for this set and why I like using it. It's roughly about a similar weight. Just the spoon itself is about a similar weight to the titanium handle spoons. And if you aren't bothered about the chopsticks, you can leave them at home. You don't need to take them. You can just take this spoon itself. But that's my set. That's my kind of personal indulgence. Again, it's about the experience over shaving every gram. So this set only cost me about £5, I think, which came from AliExpress. But if you are looking to kind of save weight and save as much weight as you can, titanium spoons aren't actually that expensive now. When I was looking, they were still like £10. Now they've come down to like £5, £3. You can get them, not £3, but about £5. I think about £5 is probably a reasonable shout for what you can find a titanium spoon for now. They're not too expensive, and if you are willing to eat out of the bag, then they're probably better for you, because that's what they're designed for. It's this long handle to get right down to the bottom of the bag. But you can have other options. So 2 options I came up with, and what I was thinking of using before I got my wooden set is this plastic child spoon. I think this came from IKEA. I have 2 kids. This is in the drawer anyway. It's about the same weight as a titanium spoon, not as long, but it would work with my aluminium cook set, which is why I was giving this a strong consideration. I bought that because it was kind of a personal indulgence, but I could have gone for this. It's technically it's free because I already had it in the house, but you know, it's just a plastic kid spoon. They're not expensive, they're not heavy. If you are trying to shave every single gram of weight though, I found you the best, lightest spoon you could possibly use. Little disposable soup spoon. I stole this from my work's canteen. Not stole, I bought soup. I got this spoon. So therefore it cost me nothing, and it doesn't even register on my scales. That's how much it weighs. It weighs about a gram. So if you are looking for the lightest option and the cheapest option, there you go. And you can, you know, if you break one, go buy some more soup, you get another one. So there's a few kind of tips. And they also go just in this side pocket, and that is then the bag packed. So there's some tips, some thoughts on what the best options for me are, on certainly if you're starting from somewhere where you already have gear and are trying to lighten it, where the best places to look to lighten it are. Yeah, you can spend, you know, £15 on a lightweight trowel, but you're really going to see the best value in looking at that shelter. Probably the shelter and the sleeping pad, if you've not already got a light sleeping pad. That's probably where you're going to see the most bang for your buck. You're not really going to see much weight saved on a sleeping bag, unless you were to start looking instead at a quilt. But given that they're around about 100 quid is kind of the cheapest I'm seeing for a decent one, they're an expensive option. They're not as readily available in the UK as you can get them in the US, I believe. It's a bit of a shame. I probably wouldn't mind going for that option myself. So when they come around to being a bit more available in the UK, maybe I'll swap to a quilt instead. But at the time being, they're not, so it's not really an option. And again, you can go out and spend, I'm seeing ultralight bags for like 40, 50 quid. You know, these I've had for 15, 13, 15, even 20 years, and they're still doing strong, and they're still pretty lightweight. They're not hugely heavy. You can get lightweight bags for less as well. You can get a bag on Amazon that I'm actually considering, because that has trekking pole hoops. Neither of these bags have trekking pole loops, so that's really the main reason I'm considering it. Now that is a packable, a fold away bag, so it's this hiking backpack that you can actually fold away. I don't see the point in that. I don't see why you would need to. I think it's like a day bag. The main idea of it can be a day bag if you're taking a larger bag. It can be a day bag, but that is 15 quid and it's 0.4 grams. So you really don't have to spend that much. Don't rush out and start looking, oh, I have to buy the gear that says ultralight on it. Make some sensible choice. You can find gear that is lighter or as light for a lot less money. Just because that is the trend, that is what people are going for, doesn't mean you have to go for that, because you can probably find something that might be a better option for you. Do a bit of smart investment. When I get a smaller tent, I'll be moving into my smaller bag, because then I'll be able to fit my water as well as all my gear in there. I can actually fit all the gear I've got in this bag right now. I can actually fit in this bag. It just is literally the gear, and that's it. So that's the main thing. I can't fit water in that bag at the moment. When I do, I will swap to this smaller bag, and that will then save me a bit of extra weight as well. This video has gone on far longer than I wanted it to, so I will end it there. Yeah, hopefully some of it has been interesting. If you got any tips for me that I haven't thought of, leave them as a comment, and I will be looking more into this stove idea I've got. So if I come up trumps with that, then I will put a video out on that stove system. And while it probably won't be for everyone, it might give some people a better stove system that they hadn't thought of before. And I might also have given myself the idea of a video on storing your gear, so I might do that as well. Yeah, so keep an eye out if you are interested in those videos. Subscribe, and then you might be able to see them when they come up. Thanks.